Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star based on novel. So let's start. On the life and death corridor of Boat of Mausoleum, there were 6 figures standing in scattered directions while observing the ongoing Rhinoceros Emperor game. Any movement? Luo Feng's brows were furrowed, and he looked outward. He could vaguely feel the bouts of ripples being transmitted over from the other end of the corridor. He guessed that was where he had earlier exchanged blows with Monster Cuello. The ripples produced during their battle had caught the attention of Shadow Dust Master, Sorcerer Sprite Master, Deer Bug Master, and the 2 other Universe Masters from Heaven Clock Clan. Their expressions did not look very well. Could it be that another great being has arrived? Luo Feng mumbled to himself. Duandong River has left the floodgate open, and for those from the skeleton race, who were eliminated at the very beginning, he did not kill them. Rather, he let them off unscathed. Obviously, he wanted the news to spread so that he could attract the attention of more great beings. The greater the number of candidates, the higher the chances of finding a great being that could accept his inheritance. Luo Feng could understand Duandong River's intentions, but his actions added pressure to Luo Feng. Rhinoceros Emperor game is really difficult. Although it has not even been a year here, in Huge Axe's universe, I have been comprehending for a couple thousand years. Luo Feng sighed. A few decades of comprehension, yet I am still in the pondering stage. Now, I have merely passed up to the 119th stage and have instantly mapped it out onto the crystal pillar. From the 1st to the 10,081st stage, Rhinoceros Emperor game was unbelievably demanding on one's ability to comprehend. Although the regulations had been summed up earlier, indicating that one only needed to decode a complete solution for the 1st to the 123rd stage to achieve full comprehension and then to instantly map it out was still very difficult. Luo Feng had to fully comprehend the first 100 stages before he felt that he had made some improvement. That was an improvement in his ability to comprehend, as when he was thinking about the mapping process, his consciousness could take up a more multidimensional structure. A short while later, Hong. A strong ripple was transmitted. A great many figures were flying over. Luo Feng and the other 5 could not resist turning around to look, and what they saw brought changes to their expressions. So many. This is really a lot. How can there be so many? Luo Feng and the rest were shocked. With one look, the dense crowd of figures included at least a couple hundred great beings, and most of these hundreds of figures had similar appearances. For instance, their godly bodies were generally surrounded by green leaf vines. The majority of these figures were obviously from the same race, with only a handful who obviously were different from this race. Shadow Dust Master's expression changed slightly. Almost all of them are from East Emperor Holy Land Universe. Only 3 are from another race. East Emperor Holy Land Universe has unexpectedly sent so many over. Look, not all of them are Universe Masters. There are even Universe Knights and Undying Souls, Sorcerer Sprite Master added. Previously, Monster Cuello had been extremely terrifying, but now, even Universe Knights and Undying Souls are able to make it past Monster Cuello to come here alive. I think Monster Cuello must have taken into consideration the intruder's ability before showing its power. Yes. This news is very important. Previously, clans only brought more Universe Masters over to try their luck. They did not bring any undying godly spirits. This news must be transmitted to our clan. If we are talking about undying godly spirits, the Divine Eye clan has tons of them. Shadow Witch couple's bodies immediately started to report the news to their clan. But the Divine Eye clan acted first and sent 2nd True Master and 7th True Master, who had already set off. An ice-cold voice resounded. The turnout is quite big this time. Luo Feng turned to take a look and saw a lone figure that was formed by converging light rays standing in the distance, Duandong River. Luo Feng merely cast one brief look. Thereafter, he did not pay further heed to Duandong River. Every time there were newcomers, Duandong River would come out to repeat the same explanation. Earlier on, when the 2 Universe Masters from Heaven Clock Clan arrived, Duandong River also gave the same explanation. Occasionally, Luo Feng would pay attention to the situation in his surroundings, but in doing so, he felt that it did not have the slightest bit of influence on his speed of comprehension. He, Dear Bugmaster, and Shadow Witch couple, being the earliest batch, were in an advantageous position. Even if an outstanding great being turned up later, so long as any one of the four managed to meet the basic requirement, he or she would naturally be able to get in contact with the inheritance first. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Previously I managed to complete mapping out the first 100 stages. I felt as though things were brightening up, and I was cheering up over the fact that I had made marked improvement. Now, I have fully comprehended the first 123 stages. I am left with this 124th stage. Luo Feng cast a glance at that 124th endgame that was quite a distance away. Then he focused all his attention on the crystal pillar before him and started to try decoding. The first 123 stages were fully comprehended, but because the solutions were already publicized, there was no difficulty at all. All he had to do was comprehend the solutions thoroughly. At that moment, he was facing the first true attempt at decoding. It was not like before, where he just had to look at the outcome of the decoded game to comprehend it. This time, he had to look at the endgame to decode the game. Obviously, he felt terribly bothered. Once, twice, Luo Feng tried to map the layout, even for those basic elements that he was unclear of, he mapped them based on his gut feeling. With the passage of time, Luo Feng's mind got clearer, as though his mind was sketching from tens of thousands of dimensions that were combining with one another, and very quickly, the basic elements were determined. This was his first attempt at decoding, and suddenly, he felt that he had gained new experiences on top of the knowledge he had learned from his previous comprehension. Half a month passed. A three-dimensional virtual shadow of a cone was forming within the crystal pillar. From the outside, no one could see it. The three-dimensional virtual shadow was perfect, suspended in midair. Not the least bit of godly power could be dissipated. A bout of ripples was immediately transmitted to Luo Feng's consciousness. The 124th stage has been decoded to perfect completion. Luo Feng was secretly happy. Finally, he had managed to succeed in his first attempt at decoding. I shall move on to the 125th stage. Time passed. When the group of great beings from the East Emperor Holy Land universe arrived, Luo Feng and company could feel the ripples caused by battling of supreme great beings from the outside world. And since those were ripples caused by battles in the outside world, to have that amount of power, the battles must have involved universe supreme beings. It was the 5th month since great beings from East Emperor Holy Land universe arrived. The terrifying ripples were transmitted across the different layers within the boat of Mausoleum, with their power weakening while traversing layers. When it reached the life and death corridor, where the comprehension of Rhinoceros Emperor game was ongoing, even the undying godly souls were able to detect the ripples. For the majority of great beings, like Luo Feng and Dear Bugmaster, the amount that they detected was naturally much stronger. That loathsome East Emperor universe. Dear Bugmaster's eyes flashed with a glimmer of rage as he looked coldly at the Universe Masters, Universe Knights, and undying godly souls of East Emperor Holy Land from afar. That North True Star Master actually blocked the doorway. He actually blocked the cabin doors. Humph. North True Star Master is in an advantageous position only because he has many supreme true treasures. That is why he dares to show such arrogance. The 3 reincarnation eras knew very little about North True Star Master. But for someone who had lived for a long time, Dear Bugmaster knew a lot about North True Star Master. Incomparably ancient, North True Star Master was one of the few remaining universe supreme beings of East Emperor Holy Land universe. East Emperor Holy Land universe had been around for a long time and had therefore received countless ancient inheritances. North True Star Master may not have owned a miniature universe, but even relying on the ancient inheritances, his battle power was still considered quite strong among all the universe supreme beings. Taking the field this time, East Emperor Holy Land universe was putting in its 101% best. North True Star Master had the other universe supreme beings loaning their true treasures to him, so he had brought along a whopping 4 supreme true treasure. The 4 supreme true treasures were Palace type, Domain type, Close combat attack type, and long-range attack type, respectively. Once he blocked the door, Great beings from the Purple Moon Holy Land who arrived later would not be able to charge their way in. Dear Bug Master was furious and grumbled his displeasure. Loathsome. Then, pushing North True Star Master out of his mind, he put in his best effort into studying the secret techniques. Battles in the outside world were ongoing. Purple Moon Holy Land and East Emperor Holy Land were really fighting each other to life and death, and both parties were amply prepared. As North True Star Master was first to arrive, his blocking of the entrance of the cabin doors had really left his opponent with no way out. This time, North True Star Master could arrive earlier due to certain reasons. 1. He had an attack-type Supreme True Treasure to help him pave his way. And 2. The clan had a more detailed map of the universe boat, so he could find an even nearer shortcut. The difference in arrival time of both Purple Moon Holy Land and Divine Eye Clan was not that far apart. Merely 3 days. On the third day of battle between Purple Moon Holy Land and East Emperor Holy Land. North True. Scram. North True, you think you are able to stop the 3 of us? Get lost. Eternal True God. Go, get him away. At the cabin doors, Purple Moon Holy Land and the Divine Eye Clan joined forces. The 3 Universe Supreme Masters were doing their best to lay siege to North True Star Master. The Universe Supreme Masters of the Divine Eye Clan. Every single one of them owned a miniature universe. The power that each possessed was extraordinary. Furthermore, 2nd True Master and 7th True Master were also skilled in concerted moves. North True Star Master might not have been afraid, but he could only hold out for that short moment before he was blasted away. Luo Feng and a couple hundred great beings were hard at work, trying their best to comprehend the Rhinoceros Emperor game, and, not surprisingly, Luo Feng and Dear Bugmaster were the few who were faster. As for the other Universe Knights and undying godly souls who had come over, their speed of comprehension was much slower, especially a handful of undying godly spirits, who, although they were already briefed by the other Universe Masters of the same race about the rules of the Rhinoceros Emperor game, were still unable to grasp a full understanding of it. From where Monster Quayo was, there were bouts of energy ripples being transmitted over. Luo Feng was aware of it. Most likely, this would be another large batch of newcomers. So many have come, but in the end, only one can receive the inheritance. Luo Feng sighed. Madness, the clans had all gone mad. After a long while, a mighty group of a couple hundred figures flew over. At first glance, a majority consisted of undying godly souls from Purple Moon Holy Land. As for the overall number of Universe Knights and Universe Masters, Purple Moon Holy Land seemed to have the same number as the Divine Eye Clan, which was also similar to East Emperor Holy Land Universe, or probably only short by 2. But if Dear Bugmaster was added to the head count, then Purple Clan Holy Land would, on the contrary, be at an advantageous position. This is the most basic rule. Dear Bugmaster took one look and started telling the latecomers discreetly. Hazy light rays started to gather. The light rays gave form to a green-haired man. He had eyes that were peaceful like the ocean, and as his gaze swept the 1,000-plus candidates present, he said, "Those who have come later, this is the last test before moving on to the next hall. It is a test on your comprehension. This is my hometown. It is a game that is most widely spread. It should not be seen simply as a game, but rather, as an important means to help you hone and cultivate your comprehension. He can test and increase your comprehension, and he is given the name Rhinoceros Emperor Game." Duandong River gave a slow and elaborate introduction. Let's begin. Within a limited time, those whose decoding progress has reached my minimal requirement may enter the next hall. Duandong River scanned the room with a cold look. Do not underestimate this Rhinoceros Emperor Game. The 4 who came the earliest, humph. Up until now, only the human was able to perfectly decode the 124th endgame. The other 3 are still too slow. If this goes on, humph. Duandong River shook his head and laughed coldly. Then he vanished into thin air. The moment his words were heard, almost simultaneously, over 1,000 candidates present from the Divine Eye Clan, the Purple Moon Holy Land, the East Emperor Holy Land, and the other groups of powers all looked over at Luo Feng. Luo Feng's expression changed slightly, too. That loathsome Duandong River. This is pure malice. How could he? How could he utter such words? Attack this human. So that he cannot focus on comprehending. Attack. Attack this human. Dear Bugmaster and Shadow Witch couple stood afar wordlessly with distant looks on their faces. As for the Divine Eye clan, Purple Moon Holy Land, and East Emperor Holy Land, all three had sent 2 to 3 Universe Masters out almost at the same time to launch attacks on Luo Feng. Duandong River might have given instructions for them to work on comprehending, but he did not forbid killing during the process of comprehending. The Divine Eye clan, Purple Moon Holy Land, and East Emperor Holy Land had a total of 8 Universe Masters launching attacks at the same time. All of them were blazing their godly powers, then either directly, or transformed into a roaring beast, a huge axe that could hack and shatter everything. Countless threads entwined together, various attacking methods they deployed, all directed towards and enveloping Luo Feng alone. This detestable bunch of idiots. Luo Feng was so angry that he was grinding his teeth. Then, right away, his godly body trembled. Crazy demon extermination godly armor suddenly expanded. Soon after, it condensed into a beast god, a gigantic, single-horned lizard. It was just like Yin Tuor's golden sulphone armor and 5 Chaos Masters' crazy demon extermination godly armor, which could also transform into beast gods. Their actual bodies would hide within the beast gods' bodies. Usually, a protective armor that could expand outward and then condense into the form of a beast god was much more valuable than ordinary Pinnacle Palace true treasures. Roar. The single-horned lizard let out a piercing roar. No matter how strongly the 8 varieties of attacks connected with it, it did not show even a trace of damage. Divine Eye clan, Purple Moon Holy Land, and East Emperor Holy Land, the single-horned lizard roared with rage. To think you all could be shameless to such an extent. The great beings from the Divine Eye clan scoffed. Shameless? What a great joke! With the impending doomsday, this precious Duandong River's inheritance is our only hope for survival. For this inheritance, nothing we do could ever be shameless enough. A 3-faced elder with 8 arms from Purple Moon Holy Land sneered and said, Luo Feng, you humans want this inheritance too? You are merely a weak little race with a single universe supreme master. How ridiculous! The single-horned lizard shot him a look of indifference. Weak. They must have been unaware of the power of Huge Axe Creator. A cold, gloomy great being from the Divine Eye clan glared at Luo Feng. You think you can disregard us just because you have an armor treasure? Everyone, time to take action. Let's exterminate this greatest threat in our way. Sure. Even if we don't manage to kill him, we should ensure that he cannot focus on studying the Rhinoceros Emperor game. Suddenly, the 8 Universe Masters continued to besiege Luo Feng. Previously, they had stood afar and merely executed their techniques with their godly powers, so the might of their attacks was not very forceful. But this time, the majority of them were 5th-tiered or at least 4th-tiered Universe Masters. All of them were executing their killing moves, be they soul attacks or close-range attacks. Roar. The single-horned lizard continued to roar furiously. A bunch of bastards. You all don't even dare to go through a round of fair comprehension. What is fairness? You weak human. You are not qualified to ask for fairness. You are too weak. Haha. What a joke you are. Amidst all the jests and jeers, they rained attacks on the single-horned lizard without holding back whatsoever. The single-horned lizard reeled back and hit the side wall, colliding with one of the stone pillars that sported a 3-dimensional virtual shadow. This caused the stone pillars to tremble, but they were indestructible. Thus, the 8 Universe Masters grew even more rampant in their attacks. Beneath their onslaught, Luo Feng was rendered helpless with no room for retaliation. Crazy demon extermination godly armor, when expanded into a beast god, has extremely strong defense abilities. He thought. It is comparable to a Pinnacle Palace true treasure, yet its combat power is still at a 4th-tier standard. Out of the 8, 6 are obviously stronger than me, and I am only on par with the other 2. The most terrible thing is that those 2 are not taking me on one by one, they are all ganging up on me. Luo Feng was in a panic. He was sustaining the stability of the single-horned lizard by consuming his godly power. Although he was trying his best to put up a fight and evade their attacks, he was still being crushed. Amidst all this fighting, he had to ensure that he was maintaining the stability of the single-horned lizard. This alone kept him distracted. The efficiency of comprehending suddenly fell. Loathsome, growled Luo Feng. Duan Dong River is simply watching all this happen. Luo Feng was furious. He was also confused as to Duan Dong River's true intention. For Duan Dong River to have made such a comment earlier on, it was as if he wanted to make Luo Feng a public enemy. The fact that Luo Feng had a relatively short cultivation time was well known throughout Universe Ocean, and he was part of the first batch that went in to receive the inheritance for this round. When he had been at the Magicube instrument, he had been able to make an impression on Duan Dong River, and he was also the first to successfully comprehend the 124th stage of the Rhinoceros Emperor game. Various factors were at play. How could the Divine Eye clan, Purple Moon Holy Land, and East Emperor Holy Land watch while Luo Feng was about to receive that inheritance? Of course they would use their most devious means to stop him. Roar. The single-horned lizard let out a furious roar, and four-hooved feet suddenly stomped onto the ground as it dashed across the shadows and flew toward the other end of the passageway, where another group of undying godly spirits were. Not good. Take cover, everyone. Those undying godly spirits all had a great shock. They were implicated in a battle between universe masters. In fact, from the start of the siege, no one had yet to be annihilated because no one knew what rules Duan Dong River would impose. Since it was a one-time selection of candidates, Duan Dong River would most likely not want to see any killing among his candidates, which was why the 8 universe masters made the smart move to control hold back while attacking Luo Feng. This was also why all the combat that had been going on did not implicate any of those undying godly spirits. But now, Luo Feng had charged his way in amongst the group of undying godly spirits. Once the fighting started, even if efforts were put into controlling the situation, even a minor implication would most likely cause an undying fighter to face annihilation. A dazzling, heavy hammer appeared, seeming to fill the whole space between heaven and earth. It hacked the back of the single-horned lizard, causing it to buckle to its knees. Bouts of invisible waves were produced in succession, and the undying godly spirits who had already tried their best to escape at lightning speed were still implicated. 2 unlucky ones eventually faced annihilation and were reduced to nothing but ash carried away on the wind. They were instantly dispersed upon annihilation. Dead. The single-horned lizard took one look behind him. 2 undying fighters have lost their lives. The 8 universe masters laying siege against Luo Feng were also shocked. They temporarily stopped to observe the movements around them. Shadow Dust Master, Sorcerer Sprite Master, and Deer Bug Master also watched with great eagerness. The 3 of them had yet to intervene with any matters that concerned Luo Feng since the group of great beings had arrived. Since the 3 of them, representing the Divine Eye clan and Purple Moon Holy Land, were the most hopeful candidates for the inheritance, the 2 groups of powers naturally would not be willing to let them take the risk. There was silence for a moment. The single-horned lizard and the 8 universe masters laying siege on it all watched, waiting to see if the deaths of the 2 undying fighters would arouse any action from Duan Dong River. Suddenly, from the stone pillars with 3-dimensional virtual shadows, 123 on the left and 123 on the right, there was an outburst of black and white lines. A total of 246 light rays were converging in midair in an instant. They transformed into a single beam that had a spirit of its own, swimming about like a water snake. This ray of light immediately swept toward the Universe Master from East Emperor Universe, who was dealing strikes at Luo Feng with his huge hammer. The ray of light ray extremely fast. It exceeded 100 times light speed, surpassing the limit allowable by the universe law. All the great beings felt a quick and forceful wave. Ah! A roar of reluctance was heard as that lofty Universe Master holding his godly hammer was annihilated, leaving behind some true treasures on the ground. Hundreds of rays of light began to cover and wind about the godly hammer, the armor, and some other true treasures. Then they swiftly were sent to one of the nearest stone pillars with a 3-dimensional virtual shadow. The godly hammer, armor, and other true treasures instantly disappeared into the pillar. Silence resumed within the passageway. A long time later, hushed voices began to speak. Fog Creator Master is dead. Fog Creator Master. Fog Creator Master of East Emperor Holy Land Universe. Every great being present was taken aback. Even Luo Feng felt a shudder in his heart. This was simply terrifying. Originally, he had thought that even if Duandong River were to mete out punishment, it would probably be something like deploying his monster-like subordinates, like Kueyo. But much to his surprise, the numerous stone pillars along the passageway contained secret techniques, which could be activated even after their masters had been annihilated countless reincarnation eras ago. One strike, and Fog Creator Master was exterminated. Fog Creator Master had been a special life form that lived within East Emperor Holy Land universe. He was skilled in techniques like the trapping of enemies, and furthermore, he was originally a living soul composed out of a mass of fog. Even after he had been condensed into human form, killing him was still extremely difficult. He had spent innumerable reincarnation eras cultivating his achievements in secret techniques, so even though he was just a living soul made up of fog, he was able to execute extremely strong attacks. In terms of power, he was definitely comparable to Primal Chaos City Leader, and in terms of the ability to protect himself, he was a notch stronger. This life form had lived through incomparably long ages. He had been a being that could roam Universe Ocean without restraint. Even Universe Supreme Masters found him to be extremely difficult to exterminate. And in a single stroke, he had met with annihilation? Horrifying. This is just too scary. Fog Creator Master is exterminated just like that. Some of the weaker undying godly spirits showed fear in their eyes. Luo Feng, on the other hand, discreetly let out a sigh of relief. Duandong River was indeed impressive. Although a thunderous technique would have probably been enough to frighten this bunch, Duandong River was vicious, executing instant extermination and plundering the treasures immediately. Previously, when we were laying siege on human form Milky Way, Lord Duandong River did not stop us at all, said the gloomy and cold man from the Divine Eye clan. This time around, it must be because undying godly spirits were implicated, so Fog Creator Master had to die. He added in an aloof manner, so long as we do not implicate any great beings around us, we should be fine. True. We were fighting for so long, yet he did not stop us. He did not punish us. Let's get moving. We are the three groups of powers with the greatest advantage now. We must not let Luo Feng be the ultimate candidate to accept that inheritance. We must restrain him first. As for we three groups of powers, we shall just have to rely on each other's abilities. I propose that all undying godly spirits and universe knights temporarily go into the palace true treasure, the gloomy and cold man said immediately. We already know the rules. Now we just have to familiarize ourselves with how to play the game. Let them stay within the palace true treasure to work on comprehending the game first. This will ensure that they cannot possibly be implicated in any way. Good idea. I second that. The three groups of powers, the Divine Eye clan, Purple Moon Holy Land, and East Emperor Holy Land, hesitated no longer. With the Universe Masters taking charge and all Universe Knights and undying godly spirits under their command, all were sent into the palace true treasure for the time being. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Luo Feng was in the form of a single horned lizard as he stood where he was, looking at the other 7 figures in the distance. Fog Creator Master is already dead. Do you all seek your deaths too? The single horned lizard let out a low growl. A man from East Emperor Holy Land universe whose entire body was surrounded with vines and green leaves retorted with a jest. Fog Creator Master's main body was annihilated, but he still has his other body kept alive. All of us surrounding you can divide our bodies. So long as we can destroy you so that you are unable to lay hands on the inheritance, does it even matter if our main bodies are annihilated? That's right. So long as this human is dead, our deaths are worthwhile. I came here, originally, with no intentions of getting that inheritance. So long as I can remove all the obstructions in the way for my clan's members to be able to get that inheritance, annihilation is worthwhile. The 7 Universe Masters were all mentally prepared. If they were to be annihilated, they would do so most willingly, not to mention that they were willing to be exterminated in the passageway, which would only mean the extermination of their bodies. Their divided bodies would still be kept alive. You weak little human, dream on. This inheritance. You will never get it. 7 figures surrounded the single horned lizard and charged toward it at the same time. They were all prepared and would rather give up their chance of comprehending the Rhinoceros Emperor game just to ensure that they had this human under control so that they could destroy him. Within the life and death corridor of the boat of Mausoleum, there were many towering figures. They were either plant life forms, blood and flesh life forms, or rock life forms. They bore all sorts of appearances and wore different kinds of armor and robes, of which the Divine Eye Clan, Purple Moon Holy Land, and East Emperor Holy Land were the top 3 strongest groups. Every single one of them possessed powers that exceeded 10 Universe Masters combined. There were also several other Universe Masters scattered about. These Universe Masters were at areas that were extremely close to the Flame Ice region. Thus, they were able to rush over in the shortest time possible. They might be powerful, but they did not dare meddle with how the top 3 powers were dealing with human form Luo Feng. Poor human. Unlucky fellow. That human Milky Way was pretty fast in comprehending the Rhinoceros Emperor game. Duandong River has made it known so directly. If the 2 of us are also fast in comprehending the Rhinoceros Emperor game, will it be publicized? Or will we be mobbed? Even if we did decode the game, let's hide our ability for now and not let it show in the crystal pillar. It's not too late to show after some time, when the number of great beings in here gets bigger. By that time, our clan's great beings will have become stronger. True. Although they could see that Luo Feng was being besieged, they showed no trace of pity at all because deep down, they all coveted that inheritance. If Luo Feng, the most hopeful candidate for the inheritance, was out of the way, that works to their advantage. That loathsome bastard. The same moment the horned lizard's sharp claws clashed with that huge grinder with a loud bang, its tail transformed into a dazzling arc of light with a sudden lash. Then, just like marks made by a battle blade, it slashed toward that single-eyed special life form of the Divine Eye Clan. Although those surrounding Luo Feng at that moment belonged to the 3 groups of powers, not all of them were clansmen of these 3 groups of power. For instance, Fog Creator Master, who had been killed by Duandong River through the use of an activated secret technique that the stone pillars contained, was not from any of these clans. He was a special life form. Some top groups of powers would have subjects under their command. For instance, the primal universe had humans. Thus, the human race formed the Hong Alliance with a couple of universe masters under its command. Say, in the future, the primal universe faced destruction. Luo Feng and all of humanity would have to enter the miniature universe. At that time, an even smaller part of their space would have to be divided out for their subjects. At least, as individuals, these universe masters were still able to continue surviving independently. These universe masters would naturally be of a lower status compared to the people of the human race, and in situations that involved greater risks, they would be the ones sent to deal with the situations, regardless of the dangers they had to face. Of the great beings who were dealing with Luo Feng this time around, the majority were subjects of the top 3 groups of powers with the abilities to divide bodies. Although they were subjects, they did not fall short in terms of combat ability and were able to put up a tough fight against the toughest opponent. Luo Feng was besieged by the 7 great universe masters. Milky Way, you are really quite good in struggling. This armor of yours works really well. Losing that pair of silver wings, you unexpectedly gained this worthy armor. But what use could there be for you to put up a struggle? Fighting against us at full force, even if you managed to stay alive, how much effort would be left for you to commit to the Rhinoceros Emperor game? Give up. It is better to back off early. They were at an overwhelming advantage, as Luo Feng was, after all, still weaker in terms of godly power. And even if he was not inferior in many other areas like knowledge of secret techniques, when it came to comparing godly power, he barely made it to the same level of power as the weakest one among all 7 great universe masters. The moment they laid siege on him, he would have no choice but to be trampled upon. Relying on his crazy demon extermination godly armor, he was able to expand and take the form of beast god. That was how he gained an extremely strong defense ability that allowed him to pull through all the attacks. This will not do. Luo Feng was fighting at the speed of lightning whilst in the body of the single-horned lizard. He was filled with anxiety. This cannot go on. I need to maintain the beast god's existence at all times, but it is consuming too much godly power. As time drags on, too much of my godly body will be consumed. And in Universe Ocean, the rate at which my godly power replenishes is slow. Moreover, even if I am not worried about using up my godly power, to continue fighting in this manner, the efficiency of studying Rhinoceros Emperor game will be greatly reduced. I can't be bothered with so much. Luo Feng gritted his teeth. As there was a large number of Universe Masters present, to the extent of 2 Universe Supreme Masters amongst them, Luo Feng had not wanted to take Star Tower out. But, forced into a corner as he was now, he had no other way out. His comprehension of Rhinoceros Emperor game was too important. The besieged, single-horned lizard was fleeing helter-skelter as the 7 great Universe Masters launched attacks brazenly. Suddenly, from within the single-horned lizard's body, a crimson tower emerged, and the single-horned lizard speedily disassembled itself to enter the crimson tower. Then this crimson tower sat itself on the corridor's ground and moved no more. A palace true treasure. How dare you hide within your palace true treasure? You really think we have no way to deal with you? Foolish fellow. Hiding within a palace true treasure is actually the best way to court death. The 7 Universe Masters surrounded the Crimson Tower and looked at what was in the middle of their circle. Then they looked at one another and started to laugh. Who shall make the first move? Who is willing to make a move? This is an opportunity. You should take it. I think it is better for you, Wind Wolf Master, to do it. Your sealing true treasure is one of the best among the pinnacle true treasures. We will be more certain that we can seal him inside the tower. At that moment, within Star Tower, Luo Feng could clearly hear every word of the conversation going on outside. He was inside the control hall of Star Tower and did not dare slacken to the slightest degree. He carefully observed the outside world, listened to every sound, watched the Universe Masters in conversation with one another, and could not help letting out a snort of laughter. You all must be kidding, he said. Sealing? You all are thinking of sealing me in here? Even the best out of all the pinnacle palace-type true treasures. This is a sealing-type supreme true treasure we are looking at. There is no possibility of sealing this type of supreme true treasure at all. Outside, Wind Wolf Master sneered. All right, leave it to me. With my treasure, he will only be able to escape my seal if his palace is also the best out of all pinnacle true treasures. Otherwise, he will not be able to escape at all. Once sealed. Wind Wolf Master continued no more. He was worried that Duandong River would catch wind of their conversation and attack him. Once sealed, there would be no chance for Luo Feng to get into contact with the crystal pillar. Therefore, there would be no chance to receive the inheritance. Previously, 2 candidates who were undying godly souls were implicated and subsequently died, therefore leading to the annihilation of Fog Creator Master. Wind Wolf Master was also worried because sealing Luo Feng within the tower would deprive Luo Feng of any chance of receiving the inheritance, which would also lead to Luo Feng being annihilated. After sealing Luo Feng, it was no big deal if Luo Feng was annihilated. However, if he had spoken too much before the sealing took place to have provoked Duandong River into killing him, then he would have been so wronged. Human. Wind Wolf Master held out his palm, and instantly, a dazzling tricolor tower shaft appeared suspended in midair. He snorted while looking at the crimson tower. Seal. Wind Wolf Master's godly power burned up to activate his true treasure. The next moment, the tricolor tower shaft flew over to station itself directly above Crimson Star Tower. A hole appeared at the bottom of the tower shaft, and an intangible yet powerful suction energy was exerting its influence over Star Tower. It started to pull on it like crazy. The force acted strongly over Star Tower, causing Star Tower to shake slightly. When Wind Wolf Master saw how Star Tower merely trembled slightly without even leaving the ground, he gritted his teeth and growled, "Seal. Just a little bit more. Fog Creator Master, your sealing true treasure's suction force is not enough. Add a bout of power, put in your very best." The other 6 Universe Masters were urging him on out of anxiety. Fog Creator Master was furious. He turned and shouted, "I have been putting in my best since I arrived. If my power is still short of that little bit, what can I do? To be able to put up such resistance, this human's true treasure is also a pinnacle true treasure that is one of the best. If any of you have something better, why not give it a shot? I'll do it, A hostile man with a single-eyed shadow behind him volunteered. Luo Feng was looking at the outside in a relaxed manner as he thought to himself, they must be kidding if they are thinking of swallowing Star Tower without it putting up any resistance. The other party must be using a supreme true treasure to make that possible. Otherwise, if both were sealing type, is it possible for a pinnacle true treasurer be able to seal his Star Tower? Sealing failed. Those universe masters would only think of his Crimson Tower as one of the best pinnacle true treasures. They would not have considered that it might be a supreme true treasure. Seeing how the universe masters failed one after another, Luo Feng did not dare to lose vigilance. He was afraid that these guys were capable of other means on top of sealing. A dozen great beings from the Divine Eye clan, Purple Moon Holy Land, and East Emperor Holy Land had gathered here, and everyone was filled with anxiety. Earlier, the 7 universe masters who had laid siege to Luo Feng had failed and had gone to the extent of borrowing true treasures from other great beings. Yet none had succeeded, even by force. This human has too many valuables. His armor is a treasure, and this tower true treasure, I think, is one of the best pinnacle true treasures that are hard to come by. To swallow it, I think only a supreme true treasure could achieve that. True. That's right. Seems like we have to turn to a Universe Supreme Master for help. Right. Only a Universe Supreme Master would have the means to. Divine Eye Clan, out of the 3 of us, only your clan has Universe Supreme Masters present here. We will all be looking to you to complete the task. Everyone was frowning, even Deerbug Master, Shadow Dust Master, and Sorcerer Sprite Master had noticed everything that was happening. Shadow Dust Master sent the news to 2nd and 7th True Masters of Divine Eye Clan via voice transmission. Out of the various great beings, there were certainly a handful whose powers transcend them all. True Masters, we are at our wits' end. I think only True Masters' intervention will be able to deal with Luo Feng. This time around, the representatives from the Divine Eye Clan included, other than Universe Masters, 2nd True Master and 7th True Master, who decided to join in the game. However, since the moment they had arrived, they had been silently comprehending the Rhinoceros Emperor game without intervening in this matter. Right then, the Universe Masters were no longer able to find ways to deal with Luo Feng. These 2 True Masters were their only hope, now. Shadow Dust, Sorcerer Sprite, we have just arrived, 2nd True Master explained via voice transmission. However, Duandong River has already set the rules which forbade us to attack any other candidates. We either don't attack at all, or we meet our doom. Ah. Shadow Witch couple were shocked to learn of this. At the same time, 2nd True Master also transmitted this news to notify the other Universe Masters of the top 3 strongest groups of powers. What should we do now? Do we really watch helplessly while Luo Feng receives the inheritance? Deerbug Master replied via voice transmission. East Emperor Holy Land and Purple Moon Holy Land were adding to the pressure and urging on the side. 2nd and 7th True Masters looked at one another. As their gazes met, they quickly came to a decision. I have a Palace Supreme True Treasure, Icecliff Fortress, that has the ability to seal. 7th True Master gritted his teeth as he transmitted this information. However, this supreme true treasure recognizes its master and has very stringent requirements on willpower. If a Universe Master were to use it, this Universe Master must have the willpower of a Universe Supreme Master. All of you from the 2 Holy Lands, your Universe Masters have lived through countless years. There are a few who have willpower that matches that of Universe Supreme Masters. You just have to nominate one of these few and let him interact with the supreme true treasure to get it to recognize him. Then this Universe Master will be able to use Icecliff Fortress to seal Luo Feng. Then who shall it be? Purple Moon Holy Land and East Emperor Holy Land took some time to ponder this question because the great being to be sent as a representative would face a high chance of annihilation. Humph. The Divine Eye Clan has provided our supreme true treasure. How could it be fair to ask us to send one of us out there? 7th True Master transmitted his question angrily. He was also very anxious. If not, he would not have been willing to put his supreme true treasure out in the open. And he was also prepared for the moment when Luo Feng was sealed, he would seize back his supreme true treasure to prevent Duandong River from taking it away from him. All right, East Emperor Holy Land will go. Soon, one Universe Master stepped out from the crowd. Very well, Seventh True Master transmitted his order. With a supreme true treasure, unless that human Milky Way also has a supreme true treasure, there will be no escape for him. This video will end here.